That ending, that absolutely gut-wrenching final sequence. It didn't just kill a character's innocence. It systematically dismantled the core of what we thought the boys stood for. Frenchie. What he did in that lab, the quiet horror on Kimiko's face, and the sheer, earth-shattering revelation that hit Mother's Milk, it wasn't just a cliffhanger. It was a calculated detonation of their entire moral framework. But the real question, the one that's been gnawing at me since the credits rolled, isn't why he did it. It's what Vought really gained from that horrific decision. What did they want him to become? Remember how we got here? Frenchie and Kimiko, their bond a fragile shield against the world's cruelty, were tracking whispers of a new, terrifying Vought project. A clandestine facility, deep underground, where they were experimenting on children, twisting nascent powers into tools of control. Their target, a young soup, codenamed Echo, whose powers were supposedly sonic manipulation. A victim. A child. At the same time, Mother's Milk, driven by an unshakable rage against Vaught's generational poison, had stumbled onto a horrifying discovery. A hidden branch of Project V, stretching back to his own family, a Vought line, he called it, linking his ancestors directly to the company's earliest, darkest experiments. He tracked his lead to the very same facility, a fateful, tragic coincidence. They thought they were on a rescue mission. They believed they were saving the innocent, exposing Vaught's latest evil. But they walked straight into a meticulously crafted trap. A web of lies, trauma, and calculated cruelty designed to break them all. And then, everything collapsed. The scene opens on the horrifying crescendo of Echo's powers. A child, no older than 10, writhing in pain and fear, unleashing a deafening, reality-bending sonic pulse that ripped through the facility. The lights flickered, pipes burst, and the very concrete groaned under the assault. It wasn't just a cry for help, it was a weaponized trauma. Now, on the surface, this looked like a desperate, uncontrolled outburst from a terrified child, right? A tragic consequence of Vaught's cruelty. But look closer. The sheer precision of the destruction. How it destabilized the entire structure, threatening immediate collapse, yet oddly spared the immediate vicinity of Dr. Thorne, the insidious Vought geneticist. This wasn't random. It was a demonstration. Thorne wasn't just observing, he was showcasing Echo's potential. Her ability to selectively destroy, to incapacitate, to bring chaos to an entire environment. Think back to earlier seasons, how soup powers often manifest based on psychological state. Echo's fear was weaponized, yes, but channeled by Vaught's conditioning. They hadn't just experimented on her, they'd trained her, however subtly, to be a living, breathing doomsday device. The visual language here is crucial, the sterile white walls cracking like fragile bones, mirroring Echo's own shattered psyche. It sets up the impossible choice Frenchie faces. This wasn't just about saving a child, it was about containing a controlled, catastrophic experiment. The fear isn't just that the facility will collapse. It's that this child, if unchecked, could level a city. And that, dear viewer, is the precise, terrifying leverage Vought needed. Then came Dr. Elias Thorne's chilling monologue. Calm, precise, utterly devoid of empathy as he explained Echo wasn't just a victim but a prototype, a soup designed to absorb and neutralize other soup powers. A living countermeasure. He spoke of her as a containment solution, a way for Vought to control its own increasingly volatile creations. But that's not all. The true gut punch, the one that redefined everything from Mother's Milk, was Thorne's casual revelation about MM's family. He explained that MM's grandfather wasn't just a victim of early Vought experimentation, he was one of the first successful carriers. A latent genetic marker, subtly altered in his DNA, designed to be passed down through generations. A sleeper gene Vought could activate in future subjects. This scene isn't just an info dump. It's a surgical strike against MM's entire identity. His lifelong crusade, fueled by ancestral trauma, was flipped on its head. His family wasn't merely victims, they were unwitting collaborators in Vaught's grand design. Their DNA, a component. The framing here is critical. Thorne, perfectly composed, bathed in the flickering emergency lights, while visibly crumbles, his face a mask of disbelief and betrayal. Look at the way Thorne's shadow stretches across MM's face, a symbolic engulfing of his past, his purpose, his very being. This reveal isn't just about lore, it's about breaking a man's spirit. It shows Vaught's long game, their generational manipulation, reaching far beyond the immediate soup problem. They plant seeds. They wait. They harvest. And just learned he was a harvestable crop, cultivated for generations. The implications for the entire soup phenomenon, they just got infinitely darker. The impossible choice fell to Frenchie. Thorne, with a sinister calm, offered the solution. Frenchie, with his unique chemical expertise, could synthesize a neurotoxin. A specific compound, capable of resetting Echo's brain. Effectively, lobotomizing her, reducing her to a vegetative state, but stabilizing the facility and saving everyone. Frenchie, torn between his inherent empathy and the desperate need to protect his friends, hesitated. His eyes darted to Kimiko. And this is where the scene truly cuts deep. Kimiko, the woman who found her voice, found her humanity, found her love with Frenchie, did not speak. She didn't have to. Her eyes, filled with an agonizing, profound sadness, met his. And in that silent gaze, she gave him the command. Do it. This isn't just a plot device. This is a brutal subversion of Kimiko's entire arc. For seasons, we've watched her fight for her humanity, resist her violent urges, reclaim her agency. And here, in this gut-wrenching moment, she silently condones an act of profound violence against an innocent child. Not out of malice, but out of sheer, desperate survival. The camera holds on her face, the subtle twitch of her jaw, the unshed tears in her eyes. It's a testament to the horror of their world. Her unspoken command binds Frenchie not just to the act, but to the shared burden of it. She couldn't kill Echo, but she could make the choice for Frenchie. It makes her an accomplice, not just a bystander. Her arc, her recovery, her entire journey towards peace. It's all tainted by this one, silent, terrible decision. It's the ultimate demonstration of how Vought wins, by forcing its enemies to become monsters, even if only for a moment, to save what little they have left. And then, Frenchie did it. He created the neurotoxin. He administered it. Echo went limp, her terrifying sonic cries silenced, her eyes now vacant, her mind a shattered landscape. The facility stabilized. The immediate threat was gone. But at what cost? Frenchie's face in this moment, it's not relief. It's pure, unadulterated devastation. He saved his friends, yes. He saved himself. But he became the very thing he despises, a tool of Vaught's cruelty, silencing a child, destroying a life. Thorne's reaction is key here, a slow, knowing smile. A silent victory dance. He didn't just escape, he orchestrated Frenchie's moral destruction. This isn't merely Frenchie being forced to commit an atrocity. This is Frenchie being groomed. He has always been the one struggling with his past, his violent tendencies, his addiction. Now, Vought has given him a new, inescapable trauma. They've deepened the cracks in his already fragile psyche. They've forced him to cross a line from which there is no return. Think about the color grading, the sterile, clinical blues and whites of the lab are now tinged with a sickly yellow, mirroring Frenchie's moral corruption. The framing of Thorne, always slightly elevated, always in control, watching Frenchie's soul crumble. This act fundamentally changes Frenchie. He's no longer just a fixer or a loyal friend. He is a compromised man, carrying the weight of an unforgivable act, directly sanctioned by the woman he loves, under the watchful, triumphant eye of Vought. This isn't a victory for the boys. It's a profound, psychological defeat. And Thorne, he just collected a massive amount of data on how to break his enemies. Beyond the immediate horrors and shocking reveals, this ending screams a deeper, more insidious thematic message. It's not just about heroes making hard choices. It's about the true, crushing cost of fighting power. Vought isn't just a corporate entity, it's a force that infects, corrupts, and compromises everything it touches. It doesn't need to defeat its enemies in open battle. It just needs to force them to become like it. To cross their own moral lines. To sacrifice their principles for survival. Think about it. Frenchie, the one who craves redemption, is forced into an unforgivable act. Kimiko, who found her humanity, silently endorses it. Mother's milk, the moral compass, is shattered by the revelation that his very lineage is tainted. This ending isn't about victory or defeat in the traditional sense. It's about Vaught's ultimate triumph, the contamination of the human spirit. The show is telling us that in a world dominated by absolute power, true good is not just difficult, it might be impossible to maintain. Every step towards saving someone, every punch thrown, every plan hatched, drags the boys further into the mud. They become what they fight, not by choice, but by necessity. It's a dark, cynical mirror held up to the audience, asking, what would you sacrifice to survive? What part of your soul would you trade to protect the ones you love? This ending doesn't just impact Season 5. It fundamentally redefines how we view everything that came before. Every moral victory, every moment of triumph for the boys, every time they thought they'd struck a blow against Vought. Was it all just part of a larger, more intricate game? The revelation about MM's family, this Vought line, shatters the notion of pure, untainted victimhood. It suggests Vought's reach is so profound, so ancient, that even the very genetics of ordinary people have been manipulated, cultivated, for generations. This isn't just about soups being bad. It's about the very fabric of society being compromised from its inception. It makes us question every origin story, every personal trauma that fueled a character's crusade. Was Butcher's hatred always purely his own, or was it also, subtly, part of a grander design? Did Stormfront's existence serve a purpose beyond her immediate evil? It makes the entire series feel like a meticulously planned chess game, where Vought has always been 5 steps ahead, controlling not just the soups, but the very definition of humanity itself. The assumptions we held about good versus evil, about free will versus genetic programming, about agency versus manipulation. They're all shattered. The foundation of this world, we now realize, was built on Vought's lies, literally, genetically. The community is absolutely buzzing with this ending, and 2 major debates are dominating the discussion. First, was Kimiko right to give Frenchie that silent command? Many argue it was a necessary evil, the only way to save their lives. They say her pragmatism, born from years of trauma, was a grim form of love. But others? They're furious. They see it as a complete betrayal of her hard-won humanity, an irreversible step backward that diminishes her entire arc. Then there's the question of Mother's Milk. Can he ever recover from the truth about his family? Some believe this revelation will break him, turning him into a nihilistic shell. But a passionate few argue it will galvanize him, forcing him to fight not just for justice, but for the very soul of his bloodline. For me, I lean towards the latter. Kimiko's choice, while heartbreaking, was a twisted act of love, reflecting the horrific realities of their world. But this truth, this profound betrayal of his personal history, will either destroy him or forge him into something even more formidable. He's always been about roots, about history. Now his roots are poisoned. How he reacts to that will define his entire future. So, with the weight of that ending still pressing down on us, one thing is clear, the boys are broken. They're compromised. And the lines between good and evil have never been blurrier. Frenchie has crossed a line he can never uncross. Mother's Milk's entire foundation has been shattered. Kimiko bears the silent burden of a terrible choice. But what about Thorne? What about Vought? Was Dr. Thorne's escape a calculated move, or did he leave behind something even more sinister? And most importantly, do you think Frenchie made the only choice he could, or did he succumb to Vought's ultimate manipulation? Drop your answer below. I want to hear your theories.